Fanfic Corner, Special Edition Fanfics, presented by Jennifer. Trick or Treat, Part 1. A Dragon Prince Halloween fanfic. Boring decorations, boring drunk people, boring booze, boring. How Soren was able to make a Halloween party Rayla's favorite holiday boring, she would never know. Looking over the sea of drunk idiots, Rayla sighed, running a hand through her silvery hair. She needed to find an excuse to leave this party. She adjusted her hood on her assassin costume, setting her empty cup on the banister as she headed for the entrance. She pushed her way past a few amorous couples, mumbling under her breath about how gross public displays of affection were. She finally made her way to the entrance. Soren and Claudia standing there, welcoming new guests to the house party. She sighed, relieved. "Hey, Soren, I'm gonna head..." As the words tumbled out of her mouth with urgency, the rest died on her tongue when she saw a boy stumbling up to them, a few giant cases of water bottles in his arms, stacked higher than his head. She knew him. Callum. He always hung out with Soren and Claudia. Lately, she had been included in their hangouts, but she never really was able to get to know Callum. Soren was very distracting with his poetry. Make sure everyone has some water before they leave so they won't get hungover. I also included some covers for drinks to avoid any drugging, he said, handing the bottles off to Soren. You really need to give me more warning about parties. I am taking Ezra trick-or-treating, and this took an extra 20 minutes of time. He is not pleased about missing candy collection time. Rayla looked over his shoulder, seeing a teenage boy in a blue dragon costume pouting. She let out a soft giggle and stepped past Soren, turning to the boy who held the water. "Hey, Callum," she said. She smiled, crossing her arms over her chest, a playful glimmer in her eyes as he stumbled with the water. The boy looked at her, a soft pink grazing his cheeks as he nearly tripped backwards. "Oh, hi, Rayla," he barked out accidentally, covering his mouth. Claudia grinned and pushed him closer to Rayla. Rayla smiled, looking down at his wizard costume. "Nice costume." "You too." He smiled bashfully, holding the pillowcase under his arm. "Sorry, I'm not staying long. I only dropped off safety supplies for Soren. I have to get going and take my brother trick-or-treating." Rayla's eyes sparkled, seeing the perfect opportunity to get out of this place. "Oh, I was just going to get out of here and go trick-or-treating myself." Claudia grinned and pushed Rayla and Callum out the door. "Great, you guys. Great, go have fun. And don't forget, I called dibs on all the chocolate-covered marshmallows." Claudia sneakily shot Callum a wink as she closed the door, the music from inside still booming, the house seeming to shake with every bass note. Rayla blinked, confused over the urgency to get her out of the house. Do you got an extra pillowcase?" He shook his head, holding up only two, one which was immediately yanked out of his hands by the boy in the blue dragon costume. "Come on, Callum, I'm not missing out on candy because you're busy flirting." Flirting? Rayla smiled, giggling softly. Callum, on the other hand, was a bright red mess, chuckling nervously. "Not flirting, just talking. Let's go. Me and Rayla can share a bath." Callum stuttered out, the three of them making their way down the road to the suburbs. Ezra slowed down enough to walk next to Rayla. "All right, here is the plan." His face grew serious as he pulled out a large piece of paper. He opened it to reveal a map of the town. "Okay, if It has a star on the house. That's a jackpot, he said, pointing to about 10 separate houses with stars on them. If there's an X, skip those because they only give out fruit and toothbrushes. He frowns. Well, that defeats the whole point of trick-or-treating then, Rayla laughed, grabbing his marker and drawing another X. That house gives out mouthwash. Ezrin smiled, looking over at Callum, walking slightly ahead. Oh, I like this girl. Rayla laughed, looking over the map more. Callum looked over his shoulder at her, inspecting the map, and he smiled dopily. Ezrin grabbed his sleeve and yanked him down in a whisper. That's the girl you like, right? His whole face erupted into a blush, and he choked down a noise of embarrassment. He quickly nodded and stood straight up. Ez grinned wide and ran back to Rayla, grabbing the map. I'll run ahead and scope out the street. You walk with Callum. Before Rayla or Callum could protest the danger of running off by himself, he was gone. She walked a little faster, catching the pace of Callum. So, did you see how drunk Marcos was at the party? I can't believe he's the top student in Miss Othello's class. Even sits front and center. Kind of a show-off, if you ask me. He chuckled softly, holding the pillowcase in one hand. Right, that's why I sit in the back where I can draw without Miss Othello seeing. You draw? She smiled, looking him up and down. I mean, you struck me as a jock more than an art kid. She teased. He let out a snort of a laugh. Do I really look like a jock? Like Soren? He smirked playfully at her. Of course not, but you could maybe be a goth like Claudia with those dark circles under your eyes. He let a bashful smile onto his face as he rubbed at them softly. Yeah, I really did not sleep well last night. Ezrin kept coming into my room, showing me his plans for the town. Well, speak of the devil, here he comes now, she said, pointing to the blue dragon running back to them. Any luck, White Dragon? No, we need to skip this street for now. Almost all the other trick-or-treaters would make this impossible to get through. We should head over to Astor Road. Astor Road? But it has 5 X's. Won't that slow us down? Rayla blinked, looking at the map again. That's what all the trick-or-treaters think, which means Callum gestured for one of them to continue. Everyone will be skipping that round until the end. Callum crossed his arms over his chest. Very good, Callum, Ezrin clapped, making Rayla snort in laughter. Which is why, if we start there, we can get back to Somnambula Road, which has 4 stars by the time it won't be as crowded. How long has he been planning this? Rayla whispered to Callum. He's been adding to the plans every year. You should see the interviews he does with people who move into town. He whispered back, an amused smile on his face as he grew more comfortable with her. She blinked to look at Ezrin. I knew you looked familiar. You interviewed my uncles when we moved here in August. Oh, Mr. Atari and Mr. Ruan, they got gold stars. Ezrin jumped up and down. Good choice. They have full-size candy bars, and after we're done trick-or-treating, there's about 40 left over every year. She grinned, resting her weight on one day. Her arms crossed over her chest. Ezrin's eyes grew wide, sparkling in excitement as he looked at Callum. Can we? Yes, Callum smiled. We can go over to her house afterwards, if she says it's okay. He tucked some hair behind his ear. Rayla couldn't help but notice how soft it looked. She laughed and nodded. Of course, and my uncles will have dinner for us, too. Ezrin cheered and rushed over to her, hugging her around the waist. You're the best, Rayla. She smiled and hugged him back. Callum grinned softly at the two of them, his sketchbook tucked under one arm. He needed to remember this scene so he could draw it again. All right,
husband broke the hug. Let's get this show on the road. We have candy with our names on it, waiting for us to claim it. And Rael and Callum nodded, and then each at him, then at each other. They all started to book it to Esdor Road.